These are the best Nike walking shoes you can buy in 2026, from budget options like the Winflo 12, all the way up to max cushion shoes like the Vomero Plus and Structure Plus. So in this video, I'll break down exactly how each of these shoes feels when you walk in them, and which one actually makes the most sense for you. Now the first thing that most people look at is cushioning. Now if you look at Nike's lineup right now, the Vomero Plus is easily the most cushioned option. You've got a thick layer of Zoom X underfoot, and straight away it feels very soft, very protective, almost like you're sinking slightly into the foam with each step. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what they're looking for, especially if you're walking on harder surfaces like concrete or pavements. Now underfoot, this is a high stack, very soft setup, so it takes a lot of the impact out of each step. But here's the important part. Because you're sitting quite high off the ground on a softer base and the platform isn't particularly wide, you do lose a bit of stability. So for some people, especially over longer walks, it can feel slightly less controlled. Now the other thing to mention here is the rocker. It is rockered, but it's quite subtle, so you get a bit of forward motion, but it's not doing a huge amount of the work for you. You're still relying on your foot to move you forward. And then in terms of fit, it does taper slightly through the forefoot. So if you've got a wider foot, that's something to be aware of. So when you put it all together, this works really well. If your priority is comfort, if you're standing or walking for long periods, or you just want something soft and forgiving. But if you prefer something more structured or more stable, the next option is going to feel very different. The Structure Plus takes a very different approach. You still get a high level of cushioning, but it feels much more controlled underfoot. Now the first thing you notice is the base. It's wider, more stable, so instead of sinking into the shoe, you feel more supported with each step, especially through the heel and then the midfoot, so your foot feels guided rather than just sitting on top of soft foam. Now clinically, this is where I see this type of shoe working really well. If you've got flatter feet or your foot rolls slightly when you walk, it reduces how much your foot moves and makes your foot feel more controlled, focused on keeping your foot centered in the shoe as you move. And for the right person, it can make a big difference throughout the course of a day. But again, there's always a trade-off. It's heavier, it feels more structured, and if you don't need that level of support, it can actually feel restrictive. So instead of helping, it can start to get in the way. And that's where something like the Structure 26 fits right in the middle. Now the Structure 26 is more balanced, you still get some support, but it's not as aggressive as the Structure Plus. So when you step into it, it feels stable, but it also feels very natural underfoot. And that's a really important distinction, because instead of forcing your foot into a certain position, like some shoes that have built-in arch support, it gently guides it. Now compared to the Structure Plus, it feels lighter, less structured, less intrusive, you have a better ground contact feel. So if you've ever tried a stability shoe before and you thought it felt like a little bit too much, this is usually a much better place to start. And for a lot of people, it ends up being the sweet spot for them. You get enough support to feel stable, but not so much that it feels too restrictive. Now, if you don't need that support, it can just feel a little bit unnecessary underfoot. And that's where most people should actually be looking next, because for the majority of the people, a neutral shoe is usually the best option. It allows your foot to move naturally without adding unnecessary structure. And in most cases, that leads to a more comfortable walking experience. And that's where the Vomero 18 comes in. It is probably the safest option in the Nike range. If you're unsure what to choose, this is usually where I'd start, because it doesn't lean too far into either direction. It's not overly soft, and it's not overly structured. It just feels balanced. When you walk in it, it feels very smooth, very consistent, almost predictable, in a good way. And a big part of that comes down to the rocker. You've got a noticeable curve to the front of the shoe, and instead of the foot doing all the work, the shoe helps to guide you forward. Now that might feel like a small thing, but it makes a big difference, especially over longer distances, because it reduces how much your foot has to work. And that reduces the effort required with each step. Now clinically, this is something that I see working really well. If you've got stiffness through the big toe or discomfort through the forefoot, that rocker helps to take the pressure off those areas. And it just makes walking feel easier. Now compared to the other shoes, it feels much more stable than the Vomero Plus, less restrictive than the Structure range, and more consistent than most options, which is exactly why, if you're unsure, this is the safest choice. But if you want something that leans even further into smooth, rolling feel, The next shoe is completely different. The Nike Motiva is one of the most interesting shoes in the range right now because it's unlike most others. This actually feels like it's been designed specifically for walking. And when you try it first, you notice a difference straight away. The rocker is more aggressive, the forefoot is stiffer. Instead of the foot bending, the shoe does the work. And what that creates is a very smooth transition from heel to toe, almost like a rolling motion. Now this isn't about bounce, it's about efficiency. And over longer walks, that can make a big difference, especially if you tend to fatigue or you've got stiffness through the front of your ankle. But the trade-off here is the cushioning. It's not as soft or as comfortable underfoot as something like the Vomero 18, especially over longer distances. So if your priority is standing or all-day comfort, this probably isn't the best option. Now the other thing to mention, this isn't a new shoe in the Nike range, so you'll usually find it at a lower price point than something like in the Vomero range. And that does make it a little bit more appealing if you're just looking for a dedicated walking shoe. Now the final thing to be aware of is that this can feel a little bit unusual at first. The rocker is quite noticeable, so some people will love it straight away and others may struggle to get used to it. Now the third mistake people make when choosing shoes through the Nike range is assuming that all running shoes work well for walking. And while some do, others are designed for completely different purposes. Some are built for speed, some are built for responsiveness, and those features don't always translate well to walking. Now if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, the Winflo 12 is probably where most people will start. But this version is quite different than what we've seen from the Winflo line before. It's a much higher stack, much softer underfoot, and overall it feels much more like a lifestyle shoe. So when you first try it on, it actually feels very comfortable. You've got softer, slightly more mushy feel underfoot, and a bit of bounce there as well. Now compared to something like the Vomero Plus, this isn't as premium. You don't get the same responsive feel from the foam, instead you sink into it a little bit more. Now the one thing they've done well is widen the platform compared to the Winflo 11, so you've got more space in the toe box. That does help with stability as well, despite having the softer cushioning. It also means it's a much better option if you've got a slightly wider foot. Now the trade-off is that it's not the most structured shoe. The forefoot is quite flexible, and the rocker is quite noticeable. So you get that forward motion, but without the same amount of support as some other shoes. So this works well for shorter walks, casual use, or even some gym sessions. But if you're walking longer distances or standing all day, this is where you'll start to notice the difference compared to more the premium options. And if your walking isn't just on the roads, this is where the ACG Pegasus Trail comes into play. Now straight away, this feels more rugged. You've got more grip underfoot, a more durable outsole, and a slightly firmer feel. So on pavement, this isn't quite as bouncy as the other options, but once you move onto uneven ground, this is where it really stands out. Gravel, parks, and light trails. It just feels more secure underfoot, more stable, and more reliable. So if you're mixing road and trail, this is easily the best option in the Nike range and one of the best road to trail options on the market. Now a lot of people might be asking why the Vomero Premium isn't in this list, and the reason that we haven't included it here is because it's more focused on running than walking, more performance driven, more responsive, and it just doesn't fit well into a walking focused lineup like this. So just to quickly summarize, the Vomero Plus is your max cushioning option for comfort. The Structure Plus adds stability to that cushioning. The Structure 26 gives you moderate support without feeling too restrictive and good ground contact feel. The Vomero 18 is the best all-rounder for most people. The Motiva is designed specifically for walking with a strong rocker. The Winflo 12 is your budget option for lighter use. And the ACG Pegasus Trail is the best choice for mixed terrain. There's links for all the shoes in the description below if you want to check out the latest price on Amazon. Thank you very much for watching, and if you haven't subscribed before, please do, as it makes a significant difference to the channel.